Morning traders, this is Alex. It is about 8 in the morning, August 12th, 2026. Today is the solar eclipse on the close. So we're going to review the stock matrix charts today. I should have waited a day probably, but it's kind of nice if it's really wild today because of the eclipse that I can go back and review this video myself, right, and look at what it did because people tend to forget. Standard intro here. Here's my 1X account, CBOT Man 33. That's kind of my old one. And I am migrating a few of the Gann stuff over to this new one, which is a WDG Master Manual. So that is kind of the standard intro. I do post. I'm doing a lot of the crypto stuffs over there right now, but eventually it'll all probably get moved. CBOT Man 33, Chicago Board of Trade Man shows my age. So that'll probably get eliminated. It's be a while yet. Here is the actual, I call it the matrix, right? It's the squaring. We use time, which is the moons, and I broke it down into a smaller one, the crescent, waxing, waning moon. So, but the solar eclipse is my preference, right? That's what I watch and observe, and that's why it's important today where everything's at. And now, of course, the squares of 9 are my pricing, and they can be adjusted by a factor of 2, right? 2, 4, 6. Or 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64. And that's what I'm doing up here as well, right? So breaking it down into its increments. So that's the logic behind it. Now, again, on these charts, if I forget to mention it, you can see I square the ranges out. And that's this black line right here, 1-to-1 squaring out of the range, which happens to fall in the lunar eclipse. This is NVIDIA, by the way, NVDA. And the solar eclipse, kind of not in the cards. Now, one thing I got to clarify in the beginning is this solar eclipse was very short. One of the shortest ones. It was a full moon short, or 28 days. Approximately, right? So between here and here, it was only 40 waxing crescent moons. Now, between this one and current, it was 48, right? So, again, 8 crescent moons or waxing waning moons short. Now, again, the mathematics still hold the same. These yellows are halfway between the two solar eclipses, and these are quarter, 3/4, right? Now, you can break it down smaller, but everything's a quick visual for me. I pull these up, look at them, plot them, and boom, I'm done. So this is the current on the solar. Now this, if I forget to mention it too, it goes from this red, I guess, brown dotted line, goes from solar eclipse close to solar eclipse close. Now again, that's the trick, right? It's a weird one. This is where it would have projected it out. Now again, we have 1 day left, full day. So again, the solar comes in at 5:38 p.m. All right, let's move on to Meta, and you can see here, again, this red dotted line coming down. Let me do a little housekeeping here since I saw it. I forgot to change these. I changed colors from yellow to brown because when I looked at the video, I couldn't hardly see the yellow on my old TV. So anyway, this is just a chopper, right? But this is where it would have been. Now, again, since we're 28 days shorter than normal, you got to assume 28 days out, we could get there, right? That kind of thing. Don't know, don't care. Not trying to be precise here in what I do. Now, you can see that we did pop a new low. But this one's still intact, right? So this here was 135 degrees, so pretty close, right? And this is the quarter, which was off, right? But it was close, and the 3/4 was off, but it was close from these two lows. So I'm pretty excited about Meta, assuming then that either the solar eclipse or the lunar eclipse will probably be some type of low or potential high, right? We don't know yet. Here's Coke. Here's that from close. Solar eclipse close, solar eclipse close. This was the projection, and you can see it was trying to get up there. And again, 28 days from now, it'll be interesting to see if we get there. Here is Google L. Again, I use Google L because it has more history. Now here we're right on it, pretty much, right? Here you can see where I marked where the projection would have been by today. Maybe if Google's up, we could get there, right? Pretty easy. So again, I'll go back and change this if we don't, but that's pretty interesting. Again, it projected it once we knew where this was at, right? The next solar eclipse. So that's pretty interesting. You can see we've been above and below it, but we spent more time above it if you counted all the X's and O's. Here's Microsoft. Again, a stalwart, I believe, in the market. It must have had some bullish news, bullish report. Again, I don't know how they can not know in this day and age with AI, but again, pretty obvious, right? We had what I call Gann's cardinal cross. Now, again, he used it on the square 9. Well, basically, that's what this is since I'm using the square 9 as price. So I call it the cardinal cross. And it did pick it pretty good right on the support, kind of this little drip down. a buying opportunity. So time and price was right in the hunt, and then that propelled it forward into the Eclipse. Now, I have a hard time buying Microsoft up here. We're up against the previous solar eclipse right in here, right? So if this extended out, the solar eclipse closed. So, and this is the high. So again, my instincts are saying a potential secondary event with timing. So I am very, very cautious. The eclipses, last ones were kind of junk. The quarters were the only thing active. The middle ones, the yellow ones, the 50% area was junk. So the only ones that worked were the quarter. Again, I call that kind of off balance a little bit. And the previous solars, the old one was kind of near the highs, but still missed it, right? So the quarter was active there. So I'm not as excited about this one as I would be, but I always treat them with maximum respect. Here's Amazon, popped a new high. So we have a trap in place. I did sell this personally because, again, I like traps. And with timing underway, I kind of liked it. And you can see we have a quick bar out of here. People that got out or whatever felt pretty sick pretty fast, right? Now, of course, IBM's the one that kind of started all this off. So with its stupid 30% gap down out of the middle of nowhere, that kind of told you that not just down, but up either direction, right? We're going to see some volatility because of stupid IBM. Made everybody nervous, cats on a tin roof. Now, we did square this previous range out, this right here, right? A 1-to-1 squared. Right in near the highs. So again, that gave me confidence to look at selling this. Now, yet to be known if we will make any money. I bought puts, so I'm not being super brave. I never am. I'm always skeptical of everything. So, and again, I just went out to, I think it was August 28th, I think. Let me see. August. Yeah, 28th. So I just went out past the lunar eclipse for time. So again, that's what I do. I like to find stuff that makes sense for the shorter term options. And if I can double, triple, preferably my money, then I'm out. Here is the projection from solar eclipse close to solar eclipse close. This is Apple. This is the projection zone. It looks weak, a little weak here, and you can see that it's definitely possible we could get there if we have an ugly day in Apple. Here is Tesla. Again, one of the big dogs that smashed. Again, there's too many irons in the fire for Tesla, I think. Again, they're more of a robot company than a car company. I don't believe they make a whole lot of cars, but they do make a whole lot of robots. So they've kind of changed gears. Now here's the solar eclipse projection right in here from close to close, right? It's probably not doable. Probably one I'd watch for a month out and then see. Here is Lynn. Again, this one did project, right? This was the solar. It's got a flat, but little upcline from solar eclipse close. It projected it so far, right? We got 1 day left. So that one's nice. Now again, it's pretty much horizontal. But you can see, right? I mean, just how did it? If you would have known the two eclipses, you kind of then you could assume that that's the trend, right? It's going to stay either below it or above it. Now this one stayed more above it, so it makes me a little more trend friendly to the upside than down. Here's ED, again from eclipses. It's way up there. So again, one I'll watch 28 days from now. Now Edison definitely has its issues, being from New York. But one thing about any of these companies that are electric, natural gas. If they don't make money, they just charge it to the customer. If they have a bad hedge, guess what? All the customers pay. they never lose money. It's the greatest freaking thing ever in the history of mankind. But you can see we're down in here. I wouldn't want to sell it here. I think that's probably, depending on where we close today, I think that makes sense. We could get down in here if we had to, maybe by the lunar eclipse. Now, of course, the solar will become the new resistance. And at the close, all these charts will get one of these dotted lines out into the next solar, which is February 6, 2027. And again, that's a complete one. It's got the complete, just like this one. So the next projections will be a little more accurate. It has the 48 crescent moons in it. But you can see it's been a nice trender. I like these breaks. Now, again, this is an exact one, right? I just copied and pasted over to here. So this break in time takes it out and price into here. So if you want to buy a dip, right, this area right here, 104.45, I'll round up a few ticks, is a good area. Here's Adobe, a bear. The bear's actually turned into a bull. And again, if you've been following me, I kind of like this trap. It kind of was the flusher, right? This activity got my attention. There's always a finale, typically. Either that or it's a big, long, rounded bottom or a chopper, right? But when you're going down, down, down at the speed of the Pentium processor, this is a trap that you'll like to see, with high volume, I'm sure, probably record bear volume. And you can see that this market has come from, well, it doesn't show all of it because it's been one of the longest bear trap trends in a while. I guarantee you the AI platforms that bought that all the way down probably lost their ass because again they don't know how to trade a long-term bear. None of them, and none of these rookies guys that you see on the internet. They've never traded a bear market. Pretty easy to buy a bull. I mean, it doesn't take much. And the stock market's always protected. Every president protects the stock market. Of course, all their cronies are in there, right? So, and they all have companies typically, and they want protected. But you can see this is the solar eclipse close, so we're kind of on that. I have a hard time buying, um, this until we can close above this area right here, and then I'll start buying the breaks. I think Adobe, again, I think hopefully, and I don't know anything about Adobe, but hopefully, they have a hell of a sales team. They've been around a long time, so the infrastructure, if they ever implemented AI stuff or whatever it takes, right? They really got a good. I would be pretty friendly Adobe, and it's a high dollar stock for what they sell. Here's IBM again, the cheater of cheaters. This gap down was 30% intraday or intra bar here, so it's definitely just inside the gaps, and you can see we're coming upon the solar eclipse close. The solar eclipse close, this dotted line right here. This is the projection, right? So I'm kind of friendly. It makes sense that we could get up there. Probably, I don't know, it's probably going to be halfway in the gap or something. And the resistance is this old previous solar eclipse, along with this, right? So somewhere up in here is probably the logical. If it has a big pop today, now it really shouldn't, right? If it drops 30%, and then you see this, that just tells you that they're cheating. Here is Bank of Magellan, one of the best nice trenders we had all last year into this year. Just hasn't broke. I did some deep dive fundamentally into this, and Ripple. XRP always comes into the news, and I guess that's why. I don't know. Again, maybe it's a Trump bank. I don't know why, but it's a great trender. You can see the projection zone for solar to solar was down here, not too far off. So again, I have a hard time buying this market. It kind of looks like it's a potential high so far, but everything's kind of out of balance, right? You look back at the previous quarters and halves, and even the previous solar eclipse and lunar eclipse. It's kind of middle of no man's land. Now, one thing about the solar and lunar sequence, volatility is going to increase, right? Just you can see it here. It was kind of quiet and it had a big wild range, and kind of happened a little bit before the eclipse. But man, that's the kind of stuff you expect to see during the eclipse sequence. Maybe a little before, maybe a little after. Here's Procter and Gamble again, kind of a dud. And again, knowing what I know now, I would not have Procter and Gamble in my select 20 or 22, whatever I got listed now. But the lunar eclipse was the high, pretty big one. The yellow events were close to the lows. The quarters were pretty active as well. So this makes me a little excited about this. Now, again, we have 1 day left. I think it's definitely possible we could maybe trip that out even in 1 day. We'll see. It doesn't really matter. Here's the diamond, JP Morgan. And you can see the power drive up. We closed on its high yesterday when I updated this. Now, the projection zone was actually down here, which I didn't put in. So that was a projection, and it kind of failed miserably. So I'm definitely against one of those. I have a hard time buying strength into the eclipses. I'll let somebody else take that trade. If I haven't got in, I'm not buying it up here. Or if I need to add, I'm going to wait until we clear this zone out. Maybe I'll look at adding in September, right? I'm just going to avoid it, that kind of thing. If you never get out of your stocks and you always buy and hold, this is a buy and hold area. If you never get out, right? This is not a place to add. You wait for a dip. Here's the old highs. Makes a little more sense. Now, I might go up pop highs again, but again, I'm never worrying about missing anything anymore. Here's Coinbase, kind of on its lows, right? So one of those stocks that I used when I did the stock matrix to trade Bitcoin with options, right? Because Coinbase has nice options. You can see our stop on the systematic approach is right there, which is logical. Above the eclipse is above the swing. So it feels heavy, but one of those, again, with the eclipse right here, you can see the previous eclipse, right here was a low. The yellow was the high, so a nice, in between the two eclipses was the high. So again, a 1-to-1 up, 1-to-1 down. This one is a perfect squaring of the range candidate, obviously. So I like this one. I put it this way, I could not sell anything down here, and maybe be one to look at buying calls. And I think you can buy out of the money calls, what I call quantity over quality, right? You don't buy one in the money, you buy maybe 3 or 4 out of the money, spend the same amount of money, and maybe buy 169 calls or something, right? Because again, if it don't go up, that means we're going to probably pull out lows and get down in here and stay down here for a while. Now, you might want to wait. Time is the essence, right? To buy any out of the money call strategies. Maybe buy half a year. Let's say you got $4,000 you want to put in. You buy $2,000 of calls here now, and you wait see what the lunar is, and then If it's higher, you buy it. I hate buying options lower when the trend is not in your favor, right? Because again, it's all about the time. Now we know, right, that the next for all these that the next halfway point between the two solar eclipses is November 9th. So now you have a time to work with, right? For all your, if you do options like me, that is, if I can't find anything short term, I'll go out, I'll get middle of November options to trade, and that's I know the time zone, right? That's the key. You know, if just same thing if you'd done it here, you might have made a little, probably didn't make a whole lot, but because again it kind of fizzled, kind of a chop, but it was a good chop. You definitely wouldn't have lost money if you'd have bought some calls here and had bought mid-May calls. You would have made money, right? Just on this concept alone. Now it doesn't have to work, right? So again, you got to follow the trend accordingly. And if you do buy calls and it starts piddling around, making new lows, you might have to bail on those options and reassess. Don't add to a loser, please. Here is Cintas. Again, it popped up. That is not a new high, but it's up there in the higher echelon of the pricing structure. This was the projection zone. So again, it's a BlackRock protected company. So you know it had a trap low halfway, right? Quarters have been the Cintas time zones from the Eclipse work really well. So again, I am assuming that is a low at the moment. Again, we have all day to trade yet, so I can't confirm that for sure, but that's a pretty good area. Now again, it could go down, maybe pop that out, that's fine, but I think the risk is under here or whatever the lows are today. Now if you have more money and you don't want to put stops too close, you know, you got to put it under the previous solar eclipse. Now again, there'll be a new one here. Let's assume it's closes steady. This will be where this dotted line, and of course, I'm bullish kind of above it, a little more heavy and bearish below it. Here's Qualcomm. Again, kind of this is one that I added because I like the swings that it has. I mean, I looked at the chart and went, ooh, I like that, right? It's not just straight up, straight down. It's like Lilly, the one we'll look at next. I mean, that's a great company, but it's hard because it doesn't have any oscillation in it. I gotta see some oscillation. Anyway, Qualcomm has great oscillation, but the projection from close to close is down here. Obviously, we're going to miss that. And again, the previous solar eclipse was support, right? And if you'd have seen that, which I did buy this, by the way, based on that, makes a little sense. Now, again, I'm not so chipper now. Now, again, if the close is on the high side, or even down here, let's say today, that's fine. Starts getting below here, I'm thinking, dang, this could be a little blip high. The previous eclipses were junk. This one was junk. These were junk. Now, the quarters were the champs. In the 50%er was kind of a pivot, but it's kind of out of sequence. You know, the low was 2 periods after this quarter, which I like better than before, right? Because I come in, I go, well, it's on its low. I'll probably buy a call or something and risk the next sequence, right? So if you'd have bought this low here, right? Now, again, you would have bought it because of the timing here. You know, this was the close. You'd have bought probably a 130 call or something, and this is your time zone, right? This is the midpoint. That's how I would look at it as a shorter term bottom picking play. And of course, that was a hero trade. And actually, this is one of the kind of a head and shouldery top. To be honest with you, this actually was probably covered this whole range. Anyway, that's how I do it, right? So now I'm looking at the eclipse going, well, a little not as decisive as this one was. Probably not one of my candidates to do that trade again. I'll probably wait until the next zone. Now here's Lilly, the shot people, basically. This is where they're making their money. Weight loss shot. But man, are they advertising. Holy crap, they're allowed to advertise. They didn't squash that, so everybody wants to be on the shot. Now I wish we had more data. Hopefully it doesn't hurt people. But the eclipses were junk. This one was a low, the oldest one, back September 21st. So it makes me a little more top heavy here. The 50% tile was nothing. The quarters, this one was a high. This one was nothing. This one was actually a high. I don't know why I didn't mark it. Let me mark it quick. So that was a high. And this one was kind of in the middle of it. Kind of on the breakout area. And okay. So, but this one was a high. Now we're coming into this sequence as an interesting pivot. So, I don't know. I'm kind of thinking out loud here. It's a big company, the biggest, actually, $1 trillion, whatever. So, you know, this squared out this range, kind of missed this high. Again, squaring out. Let me see. This kind of squares out that range if it stays within it. So I have a hard time buying it up here. Let's put it that way. I think this is proven to be an animal, a behemoth. Now, don't go short that stupid thing because it's a bull. I mean, you had a little bear trap here, right? So again, I'm assuming we have a little bull trap. For every action, there's an equal but opposite reaction. Newton's law comes into play. So I think if you're a super bear, I would sell it in new highs somewhere. Um, here's going to be 45 degrees from this high to this high, so that makes a little sense. Kind of in between the two solars, right? The quarter moon will be pretty active. Now, if we pop a new high first, I wouldn't worry about timing so much. I'd just assume that the trap is, if you're a bear, right? Now, if you're a bull, I wouldn't buy it either. I wouldn't add. I wouldn't. And maybe if you're a soft bull, you take some profits. Let's say you have 500 shares, you might get out of 100, right, on the pop. But you don't add here, right? I wouldn't add anything how it's set up on this one. SpaceX finally had a little pop. Again, I've been charting this from the beginning, and I'm not a big fan of SpaceX personally, but I am trading it. I'm scaling this one because it's such a behemoth. Of course, only 10% is going to the rockets. The rest are all going to the AI stuff. So it's kind of a fudgy play in the beginning. But I bought, and I started getting out of them on the way up here. I'm using the square nines, believe it or not. Imagine that. I bought it at 121. I bought it at 144, so I'm buying on the even squares. Well, not even in odd squares, and then I'm getting out every 1.5%, or 1.5. In the middle, I go one full square back up, and then I'm getting out. Anyway, it's not a lot of money, but when you scale, I got my orders in to buy it at 100. And then I'll, again, at the ninth square, 81, I'll buy it down there. So again, you want to have plenty of money when you trade like this. I don't put stops in. There's no float. There's no. Now you might get filled better, but you won't get filled worse, right? So there's no of that going on. If it gaps down, I get better fills. When you scale trade, you almost want some losers, right? Because again, I'm adding 2 losers, which again is totally against my philosophy of life and trading, except for when you're scaling. So. But anyway, I had one complete trade. I bought, I think, 5, got out of 1. I'm just piddling with it because it's no, you can't lose. Now, I used to do it in commodities, but man, you have to roll. There's spreads. It's just a nightmare to do it in the commodities. I mean, once spreads, you can do it in. Right, everything has its price, but in this deal, there's no time element. There's no have to worry about rolling, and it's a safe way to trade. Now, again, you can do that in every. You can do it in a video, right? I mean, you start buying the break and you just add one. Now, again, that's the problem with the stock market as a whole. We haven't seen a 10-year bear. Now, in commodities, you'll see wheat stay down for 10 to 15 years, right? It's a different setup. The stock market's always protected. And you got these big conglomerates like BlackRock and State Street and whatever else. They protect each other, and they have massive amounts of money sitting idle. Anyway, here nor there. So this sequence was kind of a dipper, the quarter, right? So we haven't had any past. Really hard to get any confirmation, but this low came in a little soon. I wish the low would have came in into the sequence of the solar. I would have been much more pumped and to maybe look at a longer term play. But right now, I cannot buy, I cannot sell. I have no idea where that goes. We don't have enough data, right? So just play it close to the cuff. I mean, I would think you're just in the trading mentality. Drop 50%, by the way, from high to low, which is kind of interesting on its own merit. Here's Bitcoin, again, a chopper, kind of sucking the bottom. And the sequences, the previous solar missed the low by 2 periods. The high was and the lunar was kind of in the middle of no man's land. Let me see. The previous solar was up there near the high. It missed it too by a few. So that's kind of the tendency. That's the trend, right? The quarter kind of hit this. The halfway point missed. It was kind of a little swing high actually. The quarter I kind of hit it in my mind, and the solar again missed it by a few, same as the other one. The 50%er kind of hit on, kind of started down, couldn't handle itself, but the halfway point between the two solars, this yellow box is here, to me definitely hit. This one hit. So we're kind of, again, the Bitcoin works pretty well with the solar eclipse closed data. So I don't know what to make of this one yet. We have a full day's worth to trade. The short-term trend is definitely down, and the stops on the longer-term stuff got moved down, which is a dumb place to put it. I mean, keep it above the solar, right? But systematic deal doesn't care. Or if you can buy calls, I would, let's say you're short, it does have a little money made. It's short from 74,541, and the stop is right here, right? 67,097. So it's got a profit. if you did that kind of trade, something like that. And if you could buy calls, I don't know where you do it, but that's kind of definitely a key thing. Now, again, we haven't gone anywhere real fast, so don't load the ship quite yet. Now, you wait, right? Patience is a virtue. The next eclipse, the lunar, might give you a better sequence to look at. Right now, we just have no idea. Now, once you start trading past the solar eclipse, up or even down, will give you a better handle on the direction into the lunar, in my opinion. And the quarters have been more active than the eclipses, right? So if you know that, you say, I'm going to stay out. Now, again, that happens to coincide with degrees. It's 360 degrees from the high. So September 26th is our zone. Now, of course, if you look at my other videos, the annuals from last year are pretty key. And actually, we are on an annual right now, August 14th, I believe. It was July 14th, which was right here, was one of the highs from the all-time high. August 14th, right in here, it'll be right in here, is the second high. And the all-time high, the big daddy, was in October 6th. God, I can't actually remember. I remember that. So that is out in here in this zone. Let me mark it. So I'll go, why did I mark that? Let me get a weird color. Okay. So let me go down here. So it doesn't look like a square of the rage. But so yeah, I mean those annuals are pretty key. The biggest break we've had in modern times is 1 year. So we're into that zone. That's why I started adding Bitcoin. I got Ripple, kind of a similar deal. It did pop lows, but not my lows. We got to get below 9. Oh, actually, we did. So it actually broke this. I didn't chart it yet, but I think we're down here. So again, I like that bear trap area. I preferably would like to be out into here more before I commit. Right now, you just put a buy stop in. Don't worry about it. Follow the system because I think that makes sense. Or if you have the ability to buy calls, I wouldn't buy leverage calls, 2 to 1, 3 to 1, that kind of thing. I would stay with the 1 to 1 until we know what this eclipse sequence does. And you can see the quarters work, the halves work, the quarters. Solar eclipse was kind of in no man's land. And lunar was kind of in no man's land as well. This quarter missed it, but it was still active. That quarter hit the high, and the solar was up there near the high. So I'm pretty pumped about this, actually. The charts are kind of telling me to buy or start thinking about buying until we can confirm a bottom, which we haven't done yet. But I do like the trap, so I'm starting to pick here. I got my stinky fingers out. I'm picking. You know what happens when you pick bottoms? You get stinky fingers. Okay, I'm going to shut it down. I just wanted to review that. If it's really wild, I might come back onto the video maybe in a month. Again, I'm not doing the stock matrix anymore, but I kept all these charts up. I did all the work, so I thought I'd review it for those that have followed me over the last 2 years on the stock side. Again, this is the Gann mentality, right? This is how I trade. So it's a simple program. And this is, like I promised, I got all the tools uploaded onto Gumroad. This is the master chart, squaring the 9 calculator. This is the range square. And this is the online lessons that are now called the master manual, hence the name of my X account and the new YouTube. So if you're interested in any of this stuff, again, I use a lot of that every day in my trading. And actually, those aren't new. I've probably been selling them for 15, 20 years. And a lot of people in India. There must be a lot of Gann folk in India because I sold a ton in India back in the day. And then I sold my business, Advantage Futures, and I had to close down my website. And it's been kind of sitting idle. People going, where you at? But I can't stay away. Again, I like teaching it, right? I'm a school teacher at heart. I graduated to be a school teacher. That's kind of it's in my blood. So, all right, I'm going to sign off. Everyone have a great week and hope you enjoy this. Give me a thumbs up, damn it.